So like I said, we are meeting for paper 2. The last time we were here, we tried to look at a few things. And like I have said, for members who are new and who have joined us today, my name is Brother Charles Dominic. I'm a teacher at Sacred Heart Chiterede, and I teach geography. And for this session, I will be taking you through paper 2. So those of you who were here last time, we tried to look at a few. We still want to look at something today. If you remember, those of you who are around, we shared on a number that today we want to pick on from where we stopped last time. We may not be able to have all of this. Those of you who missed, we can always share with the rest who were started. That we looked at the simple bar graph, their importances. We looked at comparative bar graph and line graph. We looked at the way they are constructed. We gave some questions. Comparative bar graph looks like. We went and also looked at some examples which can also look like that. We went ahead to look at compound or cumulative graphs. How do you construct them? We gave some exercise. We looked at compound bar graphs, and we looked at quite a number of them. And I think we finished with the disadvantages, and we gave some work. So that is where we ended last time. There were a few areas where possibly people may not have given us to expectation, but we shall try to put it right today. Let's first do up this work. I want to think and trust time will be on our side. So today we want to introduce ourselves to what we call as divergence, line and bar graphs. Divergence, line and bar graph. Some people call them divergent. Whatsoever that you want to call it. So, what are divergent line graph? I want first of all to explain what these divergent line graph or bar graphs are. The writings that I have here, some people may not easily understand them. I prefer explaining them for you to get a concept, for you to conceptualize or to try to have a picture of what exactly I want to mean. What we refer to as divergent line graph or bar graph, or the divergent, is a graph that will have both the positive and the negative. Some information is displayed alongside the other, but in the middle of the graph, we shall have a 0 point, which actually we refer to as an average point. That when you are moving from that point 0, as you move upwards, you are moving towards the positives. When you move downwards, you are moving towards the negatives. So the plotting is done in a sense that you will have some positives and have some negatives. So the ones that are negatives will be plotted down. The ones that are positive will be plotted at the upper area. So if you see any graph of that kind that has movement down and up, then it is trying to show us that we are looking at a divergent line graph or a divergent bar graph. Now, what's the difference between the two? When we talk of a divergent line graph, it is a divergent or a graph showing divergent lines, showing lines which are up and down, but they are in form of lines. Yet if they are for bars, bars will show divergent bars or divergent graph, which has bars up showing positive and also bars showing negative. This information, in most cases, or this kind of graph, will be given particularly to particular data, as we shall later on try to see. The question could be, how do we get the divergence? How do we get a positive and some others are negative? You will be given data. And therefore, I wanted you to first understand those things, because sometimes when I am having my students, there are people who understand or pick up things in the explanation, even when you don't explain all this, because this is just only to try to remind you as you are trying to revise, but it is important for you to understand it, to conceptualize what I'm trying to explain. So in this, we are saying that this category of graphs, or the divergent line graph or bar graphs, they portray fluctuations. When we say fluctuations, it is either increase or a decrease. That is what we are calling as fluctuation. So it is not stagnant. Whatsoever that we are going to portray, maybe it increases and it decreases. And sometimes that's why the name is picked, diverge. They are not stable. They can go up, they can go down. They can go high or low of a particular product, above or below average in the given time. Data, for example, concerning with exports, or it can be imports, the figures. The data that can also be given here, or if we want to give, it may be looking at aspects of profits or losses, or it can be increase or a decrease in population of an area, or it can be fluctuation in crop or mineral products, which can be best represented on a divergent graph, especially when there is need to show how the trend fluctuates above and low. So when we talk about divergent, we are talking of something that will move down or up. That is what we can explain. So you can be given data, which data can show fluctuations, can show differences, either high or low or something.
Yeah, I've got 6, but I'm still looking. Kale.
So in this aspect, you can be given data, and actually it's that data that we now want to look at. So for divergent line graph, they display lines. They are lines which move up and down, which show both the positive and the negative. So in this one, they show positive fluctuations or negative fluctuations. And these fluctuations can be in crop, it can be in profits, it can be an increase of population, or it can be increase or decrease in crop or mineral, depending on the data that they are given. Now, I want you to be observant that sometimes the examiner can set a question and say, the table below shows this and this, use a suitable method. In most cases, the suitable method they will bring will either have one or two. Sometimes it is only one. How do I tell that the method I'm using is the right one? You look at the data which has been given to you, and you will actually find out. In case they have not told you that use a divergent line graph or a bar graph or another one, then you will ideally know that if the information is showing fluctuations, then you can easily tell that for us to ably be able to portray or to show this kind of information, we have to use a divergent bar graph or a line graph. So those questions are common at advanced level, and I wanted you to be acquainted. So it may not only be here. Sometimes they can also bring, like we shall look at population pyramids. Sometimes they can be divided rectangles. So the examiner may require you to use an appropriate method. The way you tell the appropriate method is what it displays and the data they have given you. If the data, for example, is given and the data is for population, then you will automatically know that they need you to use population pyramids or age and sex pyramid. So it is important for any student of A level to understand. So that's what I wanted to explain. Now let's try to go through one of the examples. For example, how do we construct divergent line graph or bar graph? Please, I want you students to be very keen. For you to be able to understand and be able to draw these graphs, you must know the ways of construction. If you cannot know the ways of construction, then you will have to make a blunder or you will fail. And this is where my concentration usually is. Because if you understand the statistics, if you understand this way of construction, you will be able to read any data, or you will be able to interpret any data and understand that this is how I draw. Sometimes some of you who do the revision, there is not much that you can do the revision in the statistics. So long as you understand the ways of construction and you are able to interpret the data that is given to you, you will be able to draw anything that you will be given in terms of raw data or in terms of anything that comes. So the ways of construction of divergent bar graph or line graph, one of them is that you are supposed to add up the values that have been given and find the mean. The mean is like the average. So if you have been given, for example, this is the data. This is in exercise 1. They have given you 1960, we have 50. 1961, we have 46. 1962, we have 38. 63, 38. 64, 43. 65, 38. 1966, 39. We are saying you get this data here and add it. That's why I've added 50 plus 46 plus 38 plus 38 plus 43 plus 38 plus 39, which gives us what? A total. That is the first step. Add the values given and find the what? The mean. After you have got this, you are going to divide it by the unit values they have given you. So the unit values here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm dividing it with what? 7, which is this. If the unit values they have given you, they are 8 all the time. What I'm meaning as the unit value is how many, for example, here, the years they have given you, they are 7, and they have given the data. So if they have given 8, you divide it by 8. If they have given it 10, you divide it by what? 10. So the first thing is to add the value. So if these values, for example, were 5,460, 300, you add all of them, these ones here, to get the total. Which total, after getting the total, you should be able to divide that total with the unit value they have given you, which in this case is 7. After that, it will give you the figure. When you get this, divide by 7. Those of you who have calculators, I requested you to have calculators. It is giving us 41.1. We are looking at ways of construction. 1, add up the value given and find the mean. We have already done that. Draw a table of divergences draw a table of divergences. How do you get the table of divergences? I am saying that by subtracting the average. Now the average in this case is the 41, which we have got from the individual values. Subtract the average from the individual value. It means that you are going to get the values which are there and subtract the average which you have got. Those figures which are above the average, they become positive, while those that are below the average become the negative. Let's go there. What I have been saying is that this is our value we have got. This is our average. Now we are getting this figure, the values for 1960, we are subtracting 47.1. This one is the individual values that we have been given. We are subtracting the average that we have been calculated to give us the what? The answer. And we are saying that if we get 450 minus 41.7, we shall get 8.3. We are including this as a positive. When we get the second one for 1961, which is 46, which is here, 46 minus 41.7, it gives us positive 4.3. When we get 38 minus 41.7, we get negative 3.7. When we get 38 minus 41.7, it gives us to a negative 3.7. When we get 43 minus 41.7, we get positive 1.3. Then 38 minus 41.7, we get negative 3.7. And then when we get 39 minus 41, we shall get negative 2.7. Now these are, we know where we have got this. We have got them from here, and then we are using this to subtract. Those things are keen and every student must understand. Some students see exchange and use this, they get 41.7 minus 50. That will be wrong. It is the values minus the average. Now, the table of divergences. Now, these are the table of divergences. These ones. Which is this? But it is important for you to have them here so that you are able to show that this is the table of divergences. These are your calculations you will make. But the table of divergences is like this, 80, positive 8.3. So it is this one. So even in these ones, we are supposed to put where they are negatives. Because it is these ones which we are going to do the plotting. I'm seeing some people having their hands up. Maybe let's see, first take, teacher, what do we find?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
We are kind of requesting, as in, is it needed to round off those figures?
Like which one? This one here?
Like the one you've got like 8.3, like 8, now as if you get like 8.5. Is it possible as in to round it so that 8 turns into 9?
No, we don't round off in this case because rounding off would mean that these divergences are going to change. Assuming we say we rounded off, they will change and they may not give us what we want. Give the figures as they are.
Okay, sir.
Any other person?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please. Teacher. Okay, let's have one person. There was a lady who first, I don't know your names. Yes, please. I don't know whether that is Kara. What if?
What if you get?
Please be audible enough. What if what?
What if you get 2 decimal?
If you get 2
decimal places.
Like where? Here. Like you get
3-1.
3-1.
8.3.
If you get 80.31, then you go with this one here, which is here. That is what you represent. Yeah. There was a boy who was bringing up. Yes, please.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Teacher, why are they in the table of the divergences?
This one or
there
this one?
No...
This one. Table of divergence. Yes, go ahead.
Table. Yes, there are no positives and
there are no what? Oh,
cubes,
no, it is only me who
The
has.
positives and the negatives. Why?
Yes, thank you. It is not, it's me who has not put them, but you are supposed to put them. It is, I have not just put them, but you are supposed to put these ones here. This is positive 8 point. It is important for you to put. If you don't put the positive, but you are supposed to put the negatives, because this, if we just read
Okay.
this, we shall know these are positive, but the negatives, you must include them. But if you choose to put the sign of positive and negative, it is still allowed. There is no problem. So on this table of divergences, I've not included them, but you're supposed to include them. Please take that from
Okay.
me. Yes. Any other
Excuse me,
concern?
sir.
Yes.
I just wanted you to go back, as in the way you've told us that on plotting, that you plot. It's like I just wanted you to show me the exactly figures that you plot.
We are going to go to the next step, because here we have been doing it.
Okay.
The calculations, but after these calculations, we are now going to plot. And in the plotting, we are now not going to use this. We are going to use these divergences. This table of divergences are the ones we are going to use. We don't use this because we have already added up to this to get the sum total.
Yeah, I
And after
understand.
getting the sum total, we have divided it by the units we have given to give us the mean or the average. Now it's the average we are concentrating on, subtracting from these ones. So when we are plotting, we are going to plot only these. That is why you need this table of divergence, and the examiner will require to look at the table of divergence to understand what you're going to do.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Someone asked about something of 2 decimal places. Let me say on the calculator, I've got 8.35. Can I round off that 5, like adding it to be 8.4?
No, you don't have to round off any figure. What we only need here is to have those values as they are. In case you have 8.311 or 8.35, you still retain the 3, because rounding off will change this figure. It will change this figure from the 8.3 to 8, maybe 0.4 something, which is different. So let's not round off. We leave the work as it is.
Well, thank you, sir.
Welcome. So I think we have been able to contain. I don't know whether I see some people in the chat room. I don't know what they are raising. Let's continue, sir. Okay, someone. I think we are through with that. So at this level, we have all known how we have reached here. Remember that here, just a minute. So we have said the positive, we know now that choose a vertical scale based not on the raw data given, but on the calculated divergences. That's what I've been explaining. We are now not going, this is what I'm calling as raw data. Raw data is the information we have been given. It is not grouped, it is not calculated, it's not anything. That's the raw data. But we are saying you don't base on this to get the scale. You use this. Now, what we are meaning as getting scale is that you remember those of you who have been with me together. We said that for you to get the vertical scale, you look for the highest what? Highest value. So if you look at the highest value here, you are going to find out that our highest value is this 8.3. But this 8.3 is in the positive. Then if you look at what is the highest in the negative, it is 3.7. Sometimes you can have a figure which is much more. So these figures are going to help you to determine, because remember, the graph you are going to draw is going to have positive and negative. But out of those positive and negative, you must be able to understand that you must get somewhere. For example, if you have the positive having more values, then when you are drawing it, you make sure that the average, or where you put your 0 point, is not far much upper, so that when you are making the scale, does not disturb you. I will explain when it comes to that point. Then we are saying, so that is the vertical. Then you draw a thick line and mark it 0. This, I'm using the thick line to make you understand what I'm meaning. The thick line is that 0 line, or that average line, and you should label it as average so that we know. Then plot the scale, values below 0 become negative, and those that are above the 0 become positive. This one is going to give you the fluctuations. So let's now go down there and see. So out of these ones, we are now going to use this. So let's go down there. Now the divergence will be like this. On to the downer area, we are going to have the years. And now here we are choosing to make this line here should be our 0 line. Sometimes people put here as average line so that the upper area here are positive. The lower area here are negative. Now, mark what I was telling you, that it is important to note that the area which has, for example, when you look at this graph, this positive area has a better or has more units than this area, simply because the highest value is 8. According to our information, our data which we have here, and the lowest is what? 3. So I am making this one here, this area, you see that this has more units than this, simply because the positive area has more of the units which we are supposed to represent than the negative. But assuming it was vice versa, that this has more, then this average line or this 0 line would be extended to here so that it is able to fit in the units that would be down. Why am I emphasizing these things? One of the key things we have known about A level is that a number of students do not finish the work. It's not that students don't know what to do, but time is a very big factor which contributes. Now, a person will struggle and then he struggles, he reaches somewhere, then he starts rubbing. But plan your work before so that you know that if I have more units, I remember telling you that a UNEB graph paper has 24 squares, all of 24 centimeters horizontally, and I think 26 vertically. So when you are starting to construct, you know that you must have somewhere to put the title. You will leave some space, maybe for putting the scale. The units you remain with them here, or the centimeters you remain with them will be in between 16 and 18. So when you are planning, you plan knowing that from this area up to this area, I will need maybe 16. So you divide, or you will use this 0 point to put it at an area. I want to think you are understanding. If you have more units on the positive, then you plot this below or a little bit down. If you have more units down, then this one will move like here. Now, when we have done that, if they are divergent line graph, is that you will come, you have your 8.3. Where is 8.3? 8 is here, so maybe 8.3 is there. You will mark that. Go back. What is it?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Hey, please, Mumbele should mute his stuff. We are confused, like we are not getting what you're saying because of what?
Okay, Mumbere, can you do us a service and you mute, please? You are giving us a lot of echo. Mumbere. Mumbere. Okay, what's Mumbere, Jordan? Can you mute? Can you mute, please? Oh, okay. Let me see if I can. Okay, Kale Wasinja, I think you have done us a good service. So we're trying to explain all of these things, and I want to think that here we have said that you now start plotting. So we are plotted for 1960. When you go to 1961, the figures they have told us to plot is 4.3, which is positive. So we shall come and get our 4 is here. So if it is 3, maybe around there, we plot. We go back to our, now this one is negative 3.7. So when we plot 3.7, it is for 1962. So we shall count maybe 3.7. 2 is here, maybe 3 is around there, 3 points. We shall plot there. The next one is also 3.7. So we shall also plot here. Then the next one is positive 1.7. So 1.7, we shall go and get the 1 point, plot it there. We move to another one, which is 3.7 negative. So we shall again go back here, and then another one is 2.7, which is also negative. We shall move and plot here. After we have done this, here you just put dots, all the dots. After, you will get your ruler and join this, join this, join this, join this, join this, and join this. These are lines. But because we want to differentiate between the positive and the negative, you can now try to make some, or you use a color, this one up to here, and then this one, you use another one, which is a different color, so that you are able to represent them on the key, because it gives us a mark. That is how you should be able to give or to plot for the divergent line graph. Can we talk on some questions? Maybe some people have questions. I'm seeing here, who is that one? Serene. Someone is saying, can we join with free hands? No, get a ruler and join these things very well. Any question, any other question? I want in the free chat, I think that was Celine. Celine had any other question? Let me see.
What if you don't enclose the graph?
If you don't what?
If you don't enclose.
Are you meaning closing here?
Yes, sure.
It is important that this one is, even if you don't put this one is okay. Me, I'm only being neat. But here, you must make sure that this line is closed up to up. If you don't put this, there is no problem. But like we have said.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So I just wanted to, as into the way you've told us that you have to shade the upper so that you identify. What if I don't shade?
If you don't shade here.
Yeah, it's like shading, as in identifying that this is the positive and the downer ones are negative. So what if I don't? If
you don't shade, then how are you going to put it on the key? What are you going to represent on the key? Because it will mean that you are using the same color to represent that this is for positive and this is for negative. So you will miss out on the mark of the key.
Yeah, identification.
Yes. So this one, you use a color to show the positive, the whole of this, and then the ones which are down, also a different color to show. And onto the key, you will go and show that this one means negative and this one means positive. Okay, let's take on some other person.
So that means the teacher never really well.
Never what?
Because the teacher, for us in my former school, it's called progressive interly, if you know that school. The teacher told us that it's fine even though you use as in join it with the ruler with any, it's okay, it doesn't matter as in when you shade the upper plus the positive. That's what he told us. It's fine as in when you use the same color.
No, in the ideal situation, it would mean that one would know that these are positive. From here, anything that crosses here is positive. Anything that crosses down is negative. But for purposes of you having the mark of the key, because I'm wondering now, remember we said that when we are marking, we look at tanks. You know tanks. T is title.
Yeah, I understand.
A is accuracy and there is key. Now, if you put on the key and you are moving the other one, will it be able to show that you have both positive and negative? No. So you will need to have that to earn a mark. Now, on assumption that the whole of this divergence maybe is only showing what? Positives, and there is no negative, then that one is okay. But if it has the two, it would mean that you will yes.
Another thing I just wanted to teacher to, as in to tell us all about, as in naming of naming the other, the positive plus the negative, naming of them. It's like I'm not seeing any showing these are positive and these are negative. I'm just only seeing the signs, as in writing.
You mean this?
Yeah, like writing as in the export of about this in negative, then this, it's like I'm just seeing the plain graph. I'm just not seeing the years down. It's not there. So I don't know whether it's possible or whether it's allowed or not.
I'm not getting your point very well. Are you meaning these figures? Because idea on these figures, so long as this is a 0, it already tells us that.
It's like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. But another thing, what I'm asking about writing down, like these are years and these are exports. So I'm not saying any.
You mean on this graph?
Yeah,
down here.
On that one.
No, it is supposed to be there.
Right.
No, it is supposed to be there. Here, it is supposed to. Yes, this one is supposed to be included. Just a minute. This is supposed to have years. It's only that my photos, the way I put them, I was not able to have them tabulated in the soft copy. But here is supposed to be years, and on this side is supposed to have that. It's not that they are not supposed to be there. No, they are supposed to be there. Only that my space is small. Okay. Yes, please.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Hello.
Teacher.
Hello.
The scale. How do we write it on the graph?
The scale.
The scale.
I prefer that you write the scale here. Here. And you say 1 centimeter of, for example, horizontal scale is 1 centimeter represents 1 year. Then for vertical scale, 1 centimeter represents 2 percentages of coffee on this side. I hope we are together. It will be the same even on this side. I have put this because I wanted you to understand. The difference is only in the bars, which I'm going to explain. There was a lady. There was a lady who was bringing some question. There was someone, Matov Jacob.
Hello, it's me, sir.
Okay, right. Make your point.
So it's me. I wanted to know that because when you're plotting, these points have to be seen like as you've drawn here.
Here. They are not supposed to be. They are not supposed to be.
They have to be seen like.
No, they are not supposed to be bold like mine. I only wanted to bring them for purposes of your understanding. But for you, what you need is to point their point to know that this is where you start. Yes, another person. There was a Matov Jacob. Can you please unmute yourself and make your point?
Teacher.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
Please.
Can the positives and negatives have different scales?
The positive and negative have different scales?
Yes.
Are you asking that can they have different scales?
Yes. Obvious.
When you are giving these scales are the same. When you decided to use 2, then you decide it's the one you use down. You cannot use 4 and here you are using 2. That is why I said that if we are going to look for the scale, you look for the highest value on both sides. If you find out that the highest value is 10, for example, on the positive, and maybe this one is 16, then you have to consider 16 as the highest. Divide by the number of units you want to use on this side. But after you have done that, if they are 10, you want to use 10 centimeters from up to down. Then you will divide depending on where you have the highest unit. If the highest units that you want to use are more on the positive side, then the positive side will have 6 centimeters, and then the negative will have 4, so that there is an area for a 0. If it is the other, it is vice versa, then you also alternate that. If the units you want to use are more at the negatives, then this 0 here would be extended to be here instead of it being here, because you want to represent more on the negatives than on the positives. Are we together? Okay, another constant. Alex Walugembe. Alex, unmute yourself. And yes.
So we can move on. Time is not our best ally, obviously.
Okay.
No, please. Moving on without understanding makes no sense.
Okay.
Teacher,
Walugembe?
teacher,
Yes.
yes, teacher. How do we name those axes?
You are meaning this one?
That's my question.
This
All
axis,
the axes, how do we name them?
the vertical axis is named by giving the units that they have given you. For example, in this one will be percentages of coffee exports. Then the downer one is going to be years. But assuming they are not years, maybe they have given you minerals, then you will put minerals. These axes are given
Teacher,
usually.
Teacher.
Make your point, please.
Teacher. Yes. Do we name them horizontally or vertically?
Now, for this case, you will have to, some of these things, there is no mark we regulate for student that it has to be horizontally or so long as it can fit. But the ideal one would be that you would write them maybe like this, going up, and then these ones horizontally. This one should be horizontal. But for these ones, so long as you are able to write something that does not strain and one is able to read. But it does not call for a mark that if you write them horizontally or vertically, then we don't give you a mark, or we refuse to give you a mark because you have given it vertically. No. So long as the most important issue is to label it. That's where the mark is. Okay, someone was saying we better cover little, but do what. I don't know whether there are some other students. I want to think we have exhausted. Okay, let's now try to. Okay, now let's go to the divergent bar graph. Now the difference between the two is that one is using lines, but the other one is using bars. So the procedures are the same. The only difference is that when it comes to the bar graph is you are going to construct bars. So where we have said, for example, here we labeled it, the units they gave us was 8.3. So we shall now get here and move our 8.3, assuming it's there, you will draw this bar. You will go to the second 4.3. You will also do the same. Now, for this case where we are going to move, we are now working out on the negative, and you remember this negative was either 4.3, something like that, if I remember very well. No, 3.7 negative. So we shall draw it down, and therefore we shall draw that and also draw the second one because they were almost having. And then you shall also draw the following as we go on. I hope we are together. Now, the difference is that you must be keen to leave the space. You are seeing that there is a space here, equal space, even here, even here, even here, even here. Those are important because these are giving different values for different years, and they should be in their years depending on what you have represented down here. If it is 1 centimeter or 1 or 2 centimeters. Basically, that is what we look at under the 2. So now, if they ask you to use a divergence, or if they ask you to use a suitable and you decide to use a divergent bar graph or a divergent line graph, you will all be right. The only difference is that for you, you may decide to use a bar graph, divergent bar graph, and another one uses a divergent line graph. So in an examination, you don't have to say, I'm wrong. No. All of this information can be portrayed using these methods. So a student can choose which one, but all of these two, the difference will be that he uses the bar graph, and for you are using line graph. The other observation that I wanted to bring, it can also be in the units. For example, a student can decide to use 3, 1 centimeter using 3, and for you are using 2. Another can decide to use 4. So when you look at one with the bars or one with the line graph, you may think yours is right and the other is wrong, or the other is wrong, or you are right. This statistics has not to do with anyone. You may use a unit 2 and another uses 2.5. So if you are going to depend on what the other has, you are likely to have a challenge. But remember, dear students, for you to earn a mark, you should not forget the title. And I told you where we get the title. Don't also forget that accuracy is important. Neatness is important. Some of you, if you are going to choose, please use a pencil. Don't use pens to draw graphs in geography. And don't even use pens to draw any diagram in geography. That is not allowed. And therefore, but the disadvantage with it will also be one: if you use it, you cannot easily rub. So long as you have written it here, rubbing will already make you fail to get the marker for neatness and sometimes also for accuracy. So let's be sensitive to some of these things. I have always told my students that please let's not question some of these things. You know, there are students who always ask me, Master, if I do this, it's not a question of you doing that. Examination rubrics are very clear. Do this and a mark. You don't do this, you don't get the mark. It would be like you saying it is okay. They tell you when you take this direction, you will fall in a pit latrine or in a big hole. And then you say, let me try to see. Please, at A level, avoid some of those things because any one mark like this can change your grade. Assuming the grading is that for you to be able to have a D1 is at 80 and you get 79. Remember the grading system now, for you to be able to get an A, you must get a distinction, 2 distinction, and not more than a credit 3. If you get more than a credit 3, you cannot get an A. You can only get what? A B. So those
Excuse
things,
me, sir.
they look small, but they are important. Yes, please.
Excuse me, sir. Like you have plot, like you're starting from the left, I think the right side with the plotting, the negatives. What if I start from the right side, taking to the left? Is it also possible?
I'm not getting what you're saying as left. Are you meaning this side?
Yeah, like, yeah, that's what I mean. You started from this side.
No, you
Yeah,
you can decide to choose from where you want. You can decide to choose from
Okay.
1966 or 1960, so long as the information you are giving is right. And if you are choosing to plot for 1960, you don't again have to plot for 1960. For example, 1966 2.7, and you plot it for 1960. That will be wrong. If you choose to start from the right hand side, choose to start from up to down, or choose from down to up, so long as onto the scale here, the vertical scale you have indicated.
Excuse me, sir.
For that unit. Yes, please.
Excuse me, sir.
Another
thing I just wanted to help out. Another thing I just wanted to help out. It's like the teacher told us that you can also, as in plot, using ascending or descending. If you want, as in plotting,
you can also do what?
Use ascending and descending order.
So in this case, you are meaning like from lower to higher.
Yeah, that is it. That's what I just wanted.
I think that one may determine on particular methods. But for this one, you can decide to start with this. I would request that you use the order as per what was given. For example, if these orders are 1960, 1961, maintain the order, because this trend, this kind of movement has an impact. We are going to later on look at questions of trend, and you'll find out that this graph here helps you. So don't mix up and say, since this one is lower, let me put it this. Let me put it this. Much as when you do it, it is allowed. So long as you have given us years 1950, 1960, maybe 1964, 1965, 1966, then 1963. It is allowed. But for purposes of tendencies, you maintain the order because you don't lose anything. It is only in a specific point we shall be looking at, like spheres and tubes, where you are supposed to maintain, to look at the first units, because usually the plotting is very small. So those units are usually, we always require that you put them. So I think we have been able to exhaust this.
Yeah. We can move on.
No one has a concern. Okay, let's now go to maybe the next. The next is, I wanted to show you just something like that. It can be like something like that. here you have years, and then maybe on this you have. So these are negative, these are positive. These are representing negative, these are representing positive. It can be anything, they can be anything. So I wanted you to have a picture of that. Now let's look at the advantages. One of the advantages is that the interpretation of graph is easy. If you looked at that graph, you should be able to know that at least what is here is positive and what is down is negative by virtue of having this value. Then the graph is easy to draw. Some graphs are not, you cannot easily draw them. We shall later on look at them. For example, after this, we are going for population, and then we shall go to circular graphs, which sometimes may be hectic and take a lot of time. So it's an advantage that we also have. Then the increase and decrease in the given product are properly shown. If you look at that, you should be able to see that these ones are positive and these are negatives, and they show divergences, which may not be the case with others, as you may look at them. Then we are saying that also drawing becomes easy as compared to other things. So those are the advantages. Please, these advantages, you don't need to explain them. Just as they are, you just outline them as they are. But start with the point that the following are the advantages of divergence bar graph, as explained below. The interpretation of the graph is easy. Another point in a new paragraph, the graph is easy to draw. Increase and decrease of the given product are properly shown, and therefore it becomes an advantage. If they have asked advantages and disadvantages, then on a new line, the following are the disadvantages. Then give them. So among the disadvantages is that it is often restricted to one particular commodity. For example, when you are giving this, in most cases, what they will give you is one product. They cannot give you more than 2 products, and you are able to use this to represent. So it is only strict to only a particular product. That's why you can only have divergences. You can only have the fluctuations in a particular either minerals or crops or a population, but you cannot say that you're going to have 2. Like, for example, after this, we're going to look at population pyramids, where they can give you 2 information for 2 years, and they want you to represent it. It may not be very. So it is only, it becomes disadvantageous that when they give you such information, you can't use other methods. Yet there is some other information which can be, and you have like 3 methods to use. Then it only shows the divergences and not the real values. Hence, the interpretation can be a bit confusing. I have always told my students that sometimes when you go to my village or when we go to other places, it may not be easy for you to tell someone and you tell him, can you interpret for me this? No, it is not for everyone. You must have studied something to know that what is up is positive, what is down is negative. Then what is down here now? One must understand it. I think these are years. And then even on this side. So that's why we are saying that in circumstances of that kind, these divergences may not be. But if these values have been given in values, for example, and they have 5,000, one will be able to interpret. So that's why I'm saying that it becomes a challenge, that it may be confusing for someone to easily interpret. Then if the figures are given in wide ranges, it becomes difficult to find the suitable scale. It's one key thing that I have seen students, excuse me, struggling to do. That if it comes to that, then students will start looking for this, the scale, and the rest of the things. So partly, that is what we would look at under the advantages and the disadvantages. Please mark questions that have to do with the advantages and disadvantages. Sometimes they say 4, they give 2 marks, or they say, what are the advantages and disadvantages? 4 marks. Then it is automatic 2, 2. So to be on the safe side, make 3, 3 if you're not sure, so that you are able to get all the what? The mark. Check the language you use. There is nothing like explaining. That is the point. Okay. I'm seeing someone is having, I think he's putting up his hand. I don't know who this is.
Yes.
Any
Alex
question?
Walagembe, teacher.
Yes, Walugembe.
Yes. Yes, I would like to know the trend.
The trend, that's what we are getting to.
The
Please.
trend of the graph. If the, okay, no problem.
Well, remember, I've got your point, but we are going to move there. Yes, we have Mildred, Jacinta.
Excuse me, teacher. I'm asking about the scale, the horizontal scale. In case we use two big squares, like order to make our work neat, we use the two big squares like for years. And you told us that you're supposed to write the scale as 1 centimeter represents 1 year. So in that case, how can we do it? Because it's like you're not supposed to write 2 centimeters.
No, Julia, Jacinta, you use any you want. I've only used one because me, I've used one. You can decide to use 2 or 3, depending when you choose. When you choose to use 2 centimeters, then that is what you should write. I did not say that you are supposed to use the 1. What if we have used the 2? Then you say 2 centimeters represent 1 year. Are we together? Like we do on this one, 1 centimeter. If you choose to use 2, then you say 2 centimeters represent maybe 2 or 4, depending on what you have used. So it's not static, please. Sylvia? Nangozi?
We are given like different minerals and we are given like better and other minerals. You said using different colors in order to present those minerals in the kit.
Sylvia, I'm not able to be audible enough. I've not heard you. I don't know whether people have heard you properly.
Then we are given like different minerals.
If you are given a different minerals.
Yes. You said using different colors in order to present those minerals in the kit.
I'm not hearing well. If you have been given different minerals.
Yes, you said using different colors in order to present those minerals in the kit.
No, usually we have said that one of the issues is that when they give you divergence, they will only give you 1 mineral or 1 crop. They cannot be many. So the key that you will use, you will only shade using 1. It cannot be for many. No, they will not do that. That is why we have given the disadvantage that this one is only restricted to 1 commodity, and which can be 1 mineral or a crop. So they cannot give you many. Those cases are not there that they can come. I want to tell you one thing, that even UNEB, before those papers are set, they give to people, they go through them, like several of them. So they will not have any mistake. And if one set a paper and therefore he has given, let's say, question which is not in line of divergence, one will say, no, this question is not line of this. So you cannot have 2. It will always be 1. Sylvia still has something? Yes. I beg your pardon?
I've seen some questions like in 2011. They were asking for divergence graph. And they are given different countries, USA, Canada, and they wanted you to present them.
Which year is that? 2000 and what?
2011.
2011. And they asked them to do what? Do you have that? You have that question with you? Can you just, I will clarify in case if it's there, just take a photo and send on my WhatsApp. I will easily understand exactly what, and then we can already share it. Okay, let me just there were some people, I think, in the chat room. I don't know what Odeke helped me with that, how it's not Zoom, your access, rather BB platform. Okay, I think these are not ours. We have been able to exhaust them. Okay, so I want to think everyone can be able. Please, dear students, I want you to understand these things. When you have an issue with a number of statistics, it means you are going to have to work out. And I told you that if you are to excel, we want 23 marks and above. That is when you can be. So understand the procedures of construction, understand what you're supposed to do, and then the advantages, disadvantages. We're going to look at now the trend, but I'm seeing some people having some hands. Kazibwe. Yes, Kazibwe.
Master, I would like to ask about shading the bar graphs, because I've seen you have used the same colors to shade the negatives and the positive ones. So do we also use the same colors, or we use different colors?
I explained, maybe I've just come, but I explained that this one, me, I've just used it for purposes that I could not be able to use. But you are supposed to use a different color for positive and a different color for negative. The same even apply to this one.
Yes, I'm asking about that. Okay.
Yes.
The bar graphs.
Okay, I think we have been able to answer. Now let's look at, so those of you who want to do exercise, here is the work. Take a how do you call it? A screenshot. I don't know whether you are able to see this. Take a screenshot so that we move, because this is work I want you to do. The more you do the work, the advantageous or the better you become. You perfect.
You are done with that.
You are done. Fine. Good.
Yeah.
I'm also giving you another one. This is exercise 3. Take also this one and work them out.
Done with it.
Not yet, sir.
Yeah, anyone who is having a challenge, you are all done.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Not yet.
Some people have, like, maybe can I call it social anxiety? Because someone is in the chat room, but I see you're not focusing on the chat room. Shakila is asking.
Let me see.
When drawing, yeah, checking the chat room. Shakila is asking something.
Sir, did you? Okay. When drawing a line graph, do we skip some spaces? Yes, Shakira, we skip some spaces. It's because maybe maybe some people came late. It is possible. I said that we skip here. There is a space, there is a space, there is a space, there is also a space, and here.
It was a line graph.
A line graph here.
Yes.
Now, onto the line graph. For example, on the line graph here, this point here, I wish I had a graph. Let me see. If I had a graph, I remember, I don't know whether I shall be able to see this graph. Are we able to see this graph?
Yeah, we are able.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, when we move from here to here, this is 1 centimeter. From here to here is, or from here to here is 1 centimeter. Now, when you are plotting, it would mean that you are going to get the middle part of this to make the 1963. When we are plotting, we shall plot in the middle, and we shall do the same also for 1964 in the middle, for 1965. We don't leave spaces here. Why? Because our concentration, these are line graphs and they are not bar graphs. But the bar graph, if you construct, it would mean that you are constructing this and it is covering the whole of this 1 centimeter. And therefore you must leave some space, and the space must be equal. If you choose to use it to leave one centimeter or 0.5 centimeter, you must be constant to that. I want to think we have been able to help Shakira. I don't know whether they are. Let me check if there are other. I don't want people to. Yes.
She's meaning about the line graph. She meant about the line graph.
This one here.
Yeah, she meant about the line graph, not the bar graph.
That's why I'm saying that for the line graph, you don't need, because here what we need is when you move from here and you are moving up, what is important is for you to put that point there. You also go to 1961, put the point, go to 1962, put the point, 1963, 1964, and join this using a ruler. Not a free hand, my dear students. Not a free hand. And me, I have always told my students that please, when we are making marks, don't bring rugezi-gezi. Why? Because if you decide to say, me, I don't have a ruler, the ruler is breaking me, then you are missing out on a point, and you are going to miss out on an A or a distinction, and which actually would give you a bad grade. Okay, let's see if there is some other person with the I think we have been able. What's yeah? Is requesting for your WhatsApp number. I will give my WhatsApp number later when we're almost finishing.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir. It's like I'm just asking about this. Are you done with, as in the past lessons I didn't join, are you done with the line graph and the car graph? Because I have some question around there.
We did all of them. You will have to get that information on our YouTube.
Yeah, it's a simple question. It's like I just wanted to term it with this graph. As in drawing a car graph, do you use free hands or you use a line? What about the line graph? Do you use a free hands or it's quite confusing
curve graph,
when drawing them.
Curve graph, you use a free hand. When it is a line graph, then you must join the lines using a ruler. That is why the other one is curve. It is free hand, you can join. However, you know, there are two things I wanted you to know. Some students a student can be very smart and uses a free hand because they are shorter areas. When you look at it, you may think it is a ruler, but in the real sense, it's not. So those are some of those things that should not confuse us. Please, let's be ourselves. And when I say being ourselves, at this level, 1 mark missed by a student at an advanced level can change your grade. Whether from a distinction to a credit, or from a principal, an A to a B. So let's be ourselves. Okay, I think we're being able to clear. I'm seeing many on the chat.
Yes, sir.
I use is out if I use to or come, yes. Now, I request you don't abbreviate when you are writing because I may not be able to write to read you. I'm very poor at reading short sentences. These are good for yourselves because I don't know what Z now means. You. It is tricky. When you're drawing lines.
I use 2 on years. That's what she meant.
You use what?
Is it okay if I use 2 centimeters on years? That's what she meant.
No, maybe because some of you did not, that could be a challenge that maybe you did not join. We say that the determination of the scale on the vertical or the horizontal is dependent on the student. There is no standard unit they give. We only said that it is appropriate and advisable that when you are using this, it should not be more than 14 centimeters on the vertical scale. Now, the units on the horizontal scale are determinant on the volume they have given you, all the values. If they have given you values of more than, let's say, 8, and you're going to draw comparative bar graph, then if you decide to use 3 centimeters, it will not fit. But we also advised that in case you find that the figures are very many and you want to use maybe a much more figure of 1 centimeter or 2 centimeter, then you change the paper to a landscape. So there is no standard unit that you are supposed to use 3 or 2. It is you to determine, depending on the information they have given you and the information we have shared on how best you can give that. I request if people have, because the challenge is that if you join in the middle, then there is a challenge that you may not be able to have some of them. Yes, Blessed. I see someone called Blessed, please.
Master, how do we explain the trend of the graph?
How do you do what? Come again.
Explain the trend.
We are going to look at that. Please just be patient.
Like, how do you explain that?
Be patient. We are going to do that. Okay, I think let's now go there. I'm seeing Stephen, I think many people, let's see, use, what is Stephen having? Stephen? Stephen, unmute yourself, please. And
Hello.
okay. Go ahead, please.
Hello. So I was just telling you, can I not use points? Because can I use points rather than using the digits themselves? Because now we got the answers while they were in points, yeah? So can I use points rather than using those digits? Like has your
What I
possible?
want to get to know what you are meaning by digits and points. You mean this?
I'm meaning you back the graph. As in the other graph, when you are plotting, you used A as themselves, yeah? You don't use points. Can I use points? Like because we got the answers, they were in points. Can I not use points? Why it's based on the digits themselves?
You mean you want to use the 2.5, something like that?
Yeah, in points.
You can use them. Only that the challenge is that those units are going to be very many. But remember, you have little space here. So the best would be, because even if you say it is 1 up to 2, we know that within here there are small squares, and these small squares can still represent that.
Another thing to phrase that, why can't you tell us on how to get a scale? That is it. Now here, the way you've given us their points. So how can you get in those points and get the scale, this scale? So it's quite something.
Okay.
That's what we want to ask.
Now I request this because we did that at the first, but let me first do the trend. After that, maybe we can go back, because now we shall have done a disservice to some. Let's first work on the trend, because this is also equally important. Then we are going to explain on the scale.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so we have done the advantages and disadvantages. I've given you that exercise. I also want to give you this exercise. I told you that the more, because you have the whole week, we are meeting again next Wednesday. So I want you to have many exercises. Please take a shot of this also, so that you work it out. I want to think you are through.
Yeah, we are done.
You can also do this. Those are how many? 4 exercises. This is actually I think a question of 2000. Have I not given exercise enough?
Yeah, it's enough.
That's one.
Not inside. More.
Okay, if you want one, you let me know. I will first have to see if we have done that. But it's okay. I have no problem. I can give. Even if you want 100, I can give. I have no problem. But I want to first know that
I didn't get the screenshot of exercise 3, I think.
This one?
By the way.
Yeah.
The previous 2 exercises, master.
Okay, let's first get that one, 3.
By the way, sir, another thing, it's like help us with your Gmail, because some of us, you haven't even captured your Gmail.
Master, that boy is confusing us. Every time he's raising a point.
Okay, let's do that. 2. Let's take short of that. And then we take also for 4. I know we don't have time. We only left with 10 minutes. Then 5, I want to explain the other and I also be able. Okay, now, if there are people who don't have, please you let me know. I can still send you this information. Now, there is a quite perturbing question that they have always brought for students, describing the trend. Now, the description of trend that I'm giving here, I'm giving general. I'm not giving for a particular graph or a particular date of a particular year. But I want to identify key things. If they ask you to describe a trend, what exactly does the examiner want you to look at? I have said that when describing the trend, be keen to know that there must be a highest figure. there must be something moderate and there must be a lowest figure in the information that is indicated in the data. How do I tell? For example, if I am given information and they have given me something like this graph. In this graph, in the raw data that I had, I already know that this information here is the highest. This information here is the moderate. This information here is the what? The lowest. In the terms of positive and negative. But now, if it was not to be positive and negative, let's look at others. Maybe in a graph like this. We can also look at this. If you look at this, this one was a compound. If we are to look at this, you would also tell that this section from here to here is bigger than this section. And therefore you find out that even if you look at this section here and this one covers a much bigger space compared to this and this. Are we together? If you look at it in the line graph, you will actually see that this line here is smaller compared to this region.
No, sir, we beg your pardon.
Okay.
The network is lost.
Of course, the challenge is that I can't change the network. You have to reposition it. Okay, I'm explaining, and I'm trying to say that when they have given you something to do with describing trend, trend is going to consider three things. One, there must be a highest point or a highest value. There will be moderate value and there will be the lowest value that are indicated in the data. Whether the data is portraying fluctuations, whether it is portraying population, whether it is portraying marks, anything that you have been given. In that data that is giving you, there is some data which is going to be the highest, that maybe there was the highest score if they are marks, or the highest year of production. But there is also an area where there is going to be moderate or medium. But there is also data that can be very low, that it's the lowest. Are we together? That is what the examiner wants you to interpret in that particular year, in that particular production, in that particular area. What was the highest? What was the moderate? What was the lowest? If you want, you can call it low, medium, or high. Are we together? Now, when we are trying to talk, first of all, in the first thing, students can choose to either use one paragraph and classify all the three. Or you can still choose to say, I am going to talk about the highest. And these words are important. For example, there was an overall increase in the production or in the product from this year. And when you say from this year, then you must give us the year. 1993 to 90. For example, let me use this graph. When I look at this graph, already we have the highest. The fluctuation was moving positively, and it scored in 1960 to 8 point something. But you see that it went on moving downwards to the negative. So this is a sharp decrease. From 8, it comes to 4, and now it is going in the what? In the negative. Now, from here to here, it was at the same. It remained the same. But again, it rose all into, it started shooting high. It is from high, sharp drop. It stagnated in 1963. It again went high. It again went low. You can have this. It's only that I'm having this kind of information, but other graphs may be different. For example, if we looked at this, these are now comparative. We are looking at what was the highest number of vehicle It was registered in 1971. But which kind of vehicles was this? These were the cars. So if you look at this, the rate at which the vehicles were high was in 1971, and the unit was 2,000, maybe 300, something like that. That was the highest in the vehicle. This one followed, this one followed, and this one followed. Are we together? If we give interpretation for others, even these ones, for example, if you look at this for pickups, you will find out that the highest number of pickups was registered in 1993, and followed by 1991, followed by 1971, and 1980. In this, I am saying that there is one which is high, moderate, and lower. That's what I'm meaning. Now, all of the information that can be given, they are asking, if they ask for trend, then the trend must be given in that kind of situation. That you are going to write something that is showing that there was an overall increase in the product. The other side, if it is mineral, then you will say there was an overall increase in the mineral or crop production from 1992 to 1994. If it dropped, then you say except in this year and this year. Or there can be an overall decrease. Are you getting my point? Or it can also be there was an increase of mineral production from 3,000 to 4,000 in the year 2000. And it dropped in the year maybe 2001 to, when you say it dropped, you give us the year and you give us the drop. You can choose to give the drop either in percentages when you have subtracted, or you give it in raw data. When I say raw data, you give the figures as they are. That can be another way. Then you can also say that there was a general increase in copper production from 1970 to 1990. But when you say there was general increase, it means that that trend, it means that that production must be that there was increase. In 1992, maybe it was 20, 1993, 30, 1994, 50. That is general increase. It means it was increasing every year. But when you say it is increasing, you can say it was increasing by 10%, or it was increasing by 20. In 1970, it rose to 1990 at 70, something like that. You can also choose to say that from 1990 to 1992, there was a sharp rise in cotton production in Uganda, followed by a stagnation. A stagnation is now the other thing I was telling you on the other key, that there was an increase and then a fall, but it remained there in the same year. And then it rose, or it increased from 1996, and we are giving the what? The figures. Are we together? Exports increased from 2002 to 2006, followed by a sharp decline in 1998. It means that in 2002, maybe it was 5,000. It rose to 1,000 in 2006. But from there, it again went maybe to 500, meaning a sharp decline. So in the trend, what the examiner wants you to talk about, he wants you to look at the information and look at what was the highest level, what was the lowest, and what was the moderate. What is key? What we refer to as trend. It would be like you moving from one area to another, and someone tells you, can you tell us about your journey? And you say, I was moving from here to Kampala. When I reached, I stopped here. Here I suffered. Here I did this. A trend, like if one told you to give a trend of your academic career, it would be like you telling him how you went through and how you were reading, maybe waking up for winter. So there are the trend of something is like, look at it and see which area or which year had the highest production. What of the one which had the highest, or the moderate production? What of the lowest? So all of those things must be captured in your trend. Now, it is not true, or it is not mandatory that all the graph they give you will have all the highest and moderate and lowest. You can have a graph which has only highest and moderate when it does not have the lowest. Or you can also still have one which is having only the highest and lowest. But ideally, if any question comes about trend, that is what the examiner wants you to rotate. Now, what are the qualifiers? When we talk of qualifiers, are things that make your answers right. If I am saying there is a general increase, the next thing is to give the figure and the year. There was a general increase in copper production from 2,000 to 5,000 in 1997. If I'm saying there was a general decrease, then I'm saying from 1920, I mean in 2000 to 2000 and maybe 2. But the figures must appear, and that's why I'm saying that the figures can appear if you have quantified them. Quantifying them means that you can decide to say that if you put them in percentage, that maybe it was from, you can calculate the percentage to know what has changed. But if you find you don't have time, just give the figures. If you are moving from, let's say, increases from 10 to 20 or 30, then you say there was an increase by 20 units or barrels. If it is a fall and it is from 80 to 60, then you say it declined or there was a decrease by 20 barrels in this year. Those things are very, very keen. Year and figures. But don't forget to tell us what was the highest, what was the moderate, and what was the lowest. If the highest is not there, then look at what is there. If it was just declining, then tell us that there was a general decline, depending on the figures. Now, I may not be able to explain because we don't have that information now, that we are now going maybe to check on this. But given the different years that you look at, you'll see that this trend. Now, it is also not true that when you have every graph, they will ask for a trend. No. The way we set examinations is that when a question is set and they are going to ask about trend, then it must actually be having those things of the highest, the lowest, and moderate. You don't just simply pick any question and you say, it is okay. That's why I want to encourage that when you are reading, read UNEB questions. Get question banks because they are to the standard. Sometimes as teachers in class, I may say something because I may not have information enough to tell the trend. But the normal setting, when I call the normal, I mean the UNEB setting. If they set a question, it will be that it will have those trends, and therefore it will be vividly known that there will be increase or a decrease, and maybe at least some two, either high and low or high and moderate. So you may go and look at a question and say, but I'm not seeing any trend here. Then you say, what is happening? That information may be there, but it is not true that every question must have a question of trend. When you look at questions of UNEB, if you look at the question banks, you will see that not every year they set a trend. But when there is a trend, then there are those qualifiers that actually make it a point. I want to think I have been able to explain. Maybe we can take on some questions if there are.
Excuse me, sir. Yeah, we have some questions, but some people are offering math, and I think the math lesson has started.
Yeah.
Maybe next time.
Okay, fine. It is okay.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
Can I use one paragraph? Can I use one paragraph to explain the trend? One paragraph.
It is okay. If you use one paragraph, then you must make sure that the one paragraph is given that maybe there was a general increase from this to this, comma. Then you also give it was followed by moderate or something like that, comma, and then the lowest, if they are all there. You can choose to use one paragraph. Some other people can choose to have the 3 paragraphs to explain the highest, moderate, and lowest, if they are there. If they are not there and there is only high and low, you can use the 2. So you are not penalized.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to think maybe we have been able to exhaust. Someone is telling me it is already time and they are mathematics student. Now, I just wanted to go through one of the requests that was made by a student. The next time we meet, we shall look at age and sex graph. Now, to the student, we said that for you to get the scale, 1, you must look at the information that you have been given. The information which you have been given helps you to understand the procedure on how you get the scale. And I think it was here. Let me just see. Yeah. If such information, for example, is given to you, I'm ending with this and then we shall call it a day. Okay, the procedure is that to determine the scale of both vertical scale is by identifying the highest value or figures in the units given. What we are calling as highest value is you look at the data that has been given to you. If the data has, let's say 500, 600, you look for the highest unit. If the highest unit is 100, it is the one you pick. Why? Because it is the highest, which will help you now to be able to divide it by the units. Now, when you have the information you have been given, you now determine what do I want to use on the horizontal or the vertical axis. If you decide to say, I am using 12 centimeters, you are going to divide it by 12 centimeters. If you decide to say, I want to use 10 centimeters, you're going to use 10 centimeters. So that unit you get, if it is 80, you will divide it by what you use. If you choose to use 10, it will give you 8. That is how you get the what? The scale. So you get the highest unit, divide it by what you want to use on the, especially the vertical scale, because the vertical scale is the one which will have issues of getting the scale. The horizontal, in most cases, they are not very many. So when you get, for example, here we use the 36, we divided it by 12 because 12 is our unit we wanted to use. 36 was the highest. So it gives us 3. It means that every 1 centimeter on the vertical scale was representing 3 degrees. And that is how we get. Please, this is general information. If you want to have anything of that, you must get the highest and then divide by what you want. So ideally, that is what we have to say. If there are questions, I can take them. We can give ourselves 1 minute because we have already surpassed 9 minutes. This lesson is supposed to end at 4 exactly. If there are issues, please let's have them. If they are not, then I will have to call off this lesson. We want to thank you very much for attending our lesson today. Please, the work we have given, let's share it, let's work it out, and then try to see how best we can look at other things and then see. So I wish you all the best of the week with the work. Remember, please, on Friday, you'll have a lesson of paper 1. Same time, same particulars. Monday, you'll have paper 3. Same time, same particulars. Please, our WhatsApp groups always give information. If there are some of you, you can always send messages and we can see how we can tag you there. Otherwise, I want to wish you good time and may God bless you in all your endeavors. I thank you very much. See you.